Hi, this is the final video in the series of video assignments from the Advanced Database Management System program at the University of South Florida. In this assignment, I will be examining three database ideas. I'll share my screen now. The first idea examined is on query processing and optimizer modes. The two modes examined here are all rows and first rows n. When the query is run using the hint all rows, we see that the query optimizer uses a hash join to execute this. A hash join uses more resources in comparison to the next optimizer mode, which is first rows. The first rows, when given the hint first rows, the query optimizer uses a concept called the nested loop. The nested loop is the most commonly used algorithm that uses a range scan, and a hash join uses a full table scan. The second idea examined here is transaction processing. For this, the concept examined is read consistency models. So the two concepts examined under read consistency models are isolation level serializable and isolation level read committed. So the serializable isolation level ensures that the current session is isolated from any other session that operates on this table, on a particular table. For instance, as shown in the examples here, I have two sessions of where the same query is being run to find the sum of distance from the table flight info. Currently, we can see that the sum of the distances is the same for for a particular flight number. In the following step, I have serialized the first session, and I've inserted a new row into the through a second session to the same table. In step 3, I've compared the execution of the same statement, which is a select sum of distance on both consoles. What we see here is on session 1, which was serialized, the previous sum is still being maintained, whereas in session 2 we have a new sum updated. This shows that when a session has been overridden to the serializable mode, it is isolated. I'm sorry, it's isolated from every other execution happening outside of that session. The second isolation level examined is read committed. Read committed is the default isolation level in which the changes in one session are reflected on another session simultaneously. As we see here, for instance, for the same query, the starting sum of distance is 61,871 for both sessions. On isolating it to read committed, or even if we do not give the read committed isolation level, what we see is that the sums of distance are updated simultaneously on both sessions. The third idea examined is on parallel databases, particularly the partition tables. So I've examined two types of partitions here, the list partition and the range partition. What I've done in this experiment is compare the performance of the optimizer when with and without a list partition and with and without a range partition. As we can see, with the run of the first for a table without a partition, the average time taken to run this particular query is around 0.026 seconds, and a full table scan is performed. When I create another table with a list partition, I find that the time has reduced considerably to 0.015 seconds for the same query. Similarly, and a partition search is formed. Similarly, when considering the range partition, without a range partition, the query as highlighted here takes 0.044 seconds to execute and a full table scan is performed. Whereas when this is performed, when a table with a range partition is created, the execution is reduced to around 0.037 seconds, and range partition is in effect. So, from the above experiments for this idea, we observed that the partition tables provide faster and more efficient execution. So, this uh, brings me to the end of my video. Thank you very much.